Day 455 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzy here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a quick look at those Russian losses, and currently, Russia is sitting on over 204,000 military personnel losses there. And in terms of hardware losses, there's 3 tanks, 5 APVs, and a whopping 21 artillery. And I'll show you a couple of those in a moment as well. Oh, also, 1 Russian Ka-52 attack helicopter in the east, so always good to see. Then we'll head back to the map, and we'll start out in Kursk today, so the Kursk Oblast of Russia, where it appears additional separatist groups are in the oblast, as they are seen here, standing against the background of the Gogolevka sign. And I'll attempt to zoom right in to where that is, hiding all the way up here, over the border, and up there. There it is. Now, of course, this all comes off the back of separatist incursions in the Belgorod region from just about a day ago, which will probably get us all asking the new question to Russia now, which is, what border defense doing? But really, we already know the answer to that question, which is that Russia dealt its hand and went all in, basically, in committing its military resources to the Donbass mostly. Which is a great strategy. That is, if you're not expecting various Russian liberation groups to start storming border regions of Russia all of a sudden. And hopefully Russia doesn't also forget about China's watchful eye in Russia's mostly unprotected eastern regions. But now we move across to Russia's other concerning location of the Belgorod Oblast. And that's right next door if I can zoom out fast enough. So here we go. Now, as a result of the previous day's attacks from these Russian liberation groups, Russia's governor Gladkov of the region said Russia has stopped the incursion into Belgorod, but also that not all areas are fully under their control yet. So there appears to be some contrary statements from Russia there, surprise, surprise. But no matter what happens now in Belgorod, it has proven that too much, if not all, of Russia's military is in Ukraine. As these anti-Putin military activities in Russia, like Belgorod and in the Kursk Oblast I've just shown you, should never have been able to occur in the first place. And it should also be said that Ukraine advised that they are watching these types of activities very carefully, but these are Russian separatist actions with their own goals and not by Ukraine's making. And I should also quickly add in here, I've really got to say that according to the current practices of Russia, in order to hold a legal referendum, it is not necessary to control the entire territory. So maybe Russia will get an additional country buffer zone to get away from NATO after all, but just not in the way that Putin originally envisioned. Oh, and so Russia posted some photos of stopping the separatist groups at Graveron, so that's right there if we zoom right in, although quite a few perspectives from analysts and even tow truck drivers called out these Humvee images as being staged. Calling out, for instance, how there was a notable absence of gravel on the tyres of the vehicles, also how there was no displacement of soil on crash impact. Curiosity was also sparked at how the back tyres made it over a trench, but a front tyre didn't. There was also absences of tyre tracks they mentioned too. So the general consensus was that the use of a flatbed truck and a crane was used to gear these ones into position, and from Humvees that were probably already captured in the Donbass months ago. Now, in contrast, here's what some real destruction looks like in Belgorod, as we have here. So 2 Russian Ural cargo trucks and a T-12 anti-tank gun, which was destroyed in nearby Glatovo during the raid of the anti-Kremlin Russian units. But here's the thing, it's so embarrassing for Russia that something like this could even have occurred, that they either had to say A, stop the incursion, then announce it was thwarted, or B, fake stopping the incursion, then announce it was thwarted. But really, to summarize the implications of this, Russia's perceived border length has just doubled in size overnight. At least as it pertains to land-based incursions, which fits quite nicely with their lack of control over Ukrainian drone-laden skies as well. Then we'll move across to Bakhmut, where there has been very little changes in the last day. Things appear to be slowing down a bit there. And since Russia's taken of Bakhmut, or mostly taken of Bakhmut, it appears Russia may be looking to take more of a defensive stance in this region now. And so Igor Girkin, who is a former Russian FSB colonel and defense minister of Donbass operations, wasn't really shy to say that the Ukrainian forces have pretty much obliterated the Wagner and Russian forces, and that Ukraine is now in a position to deal several strikes wherever it wants, and is most likely to be met with weak Russian resistance. And this Igor fella is one of the few officials, other than Wagner's Prigozhin, that can speak openly and negatively about Putin and the Russian army, and has been quite well known for speaking hard truths about Russian operations, and is often right. Oh, and he's also hiding somewhere in the Donbass, perhaps in a cave, basically with a makeshift video login or vlogging or recording studio of a sort. He's always pumping out something negative to say about the Russian MOD and sometimes Putin. Then back to that hint earlier about the artillery losses. So somewhere in the east, 2 Russian Mr. S 152mm self-propelled howitzers, so SPGs, big old gun on wheels as I like to see, were oddly parked back to back, right next to each other, and were destroyed by the Ukrainian army using 2 Excalibur precision projectiles. Which is unfortunate for Russia, as it is some of the best SPGs that they have to offer. So that's gotta hurt. Then we'll move down to the Zaporizhia region for a moment. We're not here every day at the moment, but Russia removed a T-70 light tank monument from World War II from its pedestal in Melitopol, so Russian-occupied Melitopol city right there. And why? There's no reason to remove it, as it's in a Russian-occupied zone, so perhaps they want to mechanically restore it for a future Russian military parade, or, heaven forbid, send it to the actual front lines instead. Then in nearby Berdyansk, Russian-occupied Berdyansk, obviously there, smoke rises over the city as well, once again, almost every day at the moment. And so it appears that the AFU are not letting up on this HQ position of the Russian forces, a position which cannot be reached by HIMARS, GIMLARS rockets due to range limitations. So perhaps another Storm Shadow incident, as Russia is continuously forced to bite the big one right here. Then we'll move on right on down, pretty much direct due south to the Crimean Peninsula, where it might feel like your dreams have come true, as there was a somewhat pronounced smoking incident at the Kerch Bridge. So the bridge was closed, and Russian occupation authorities have cited that they were conducting some exercises. And so obviously a vehicle, perhaps a military vehicle of some description, decided to spontaneously combust. And you would think that they would have learned their lesson about smoking by now, but no, not Russia. Then we'll move across to some news for today. So it appears Germany is prepping for an official announcement regarding the sending of its Storm Shadow variant to Ukraine. And this all comes following an announcement by the UK, then France, that they would be sending theirs. In fact, UK has already sent theirs and working, being used as we speak. So let those floodgates open wide. Then in some other news, Russian Deputy Minister of Science and Higher Education, Pyotr Alexandrovich, mysteriously fell ill during a long flight and died shortly after in Russia at the age of 46. He has also been a known critic of Kremlin policies, particularly in regards to the Russia's aggression in Ukraine since 2022. But this guy also follows a long line of mysterious Russian death occurrences that have happened with increased regularity since the war began. So from scientists to generals to energy bosses and politicians. And it's all due to what has been the widely accepted reason as being that Putin has been taking out his opposition within the country. He wants everybody thinking everything's going according to plan. Then in another Russian soldier surrendering segment, say that 3 times fast. Now this one's not perfect footage due to the partial obstruction of their faces, but here we have 28 Russian soldiers who surrendered after a defeat in Avdiivka, and no surprises there, as Avdiivka is sort of like one of the 3 points of the Donbass's Bermuda Triangle of Russian losses, as Bakhmut and Volodar are the other 2. And these guys here are in fact accusing their Russian command of sending them to certain death in the form of severely underprepared assault brigades. So they ran out of ammo very quickly, they had nothing else to fight with. They said that command made no attempt to minimize their losses. So you see, these Russians, like many before them, were treated like absolute trash, sent to the front lines, all in the name of plugging some temporary gaps. And Russia cannot do this forever. They also said their rifles were over 40 years old. Not that it really mattered, as they were shortly thereafter simply lacking in the magazines for them anyway. Oh, they also said all of the personnel were afraid of going to the front lines due to a known lack of aviation support and combat vehicle support. And so they ended up deciding, screw this, we're surrendering. And if this story sounds familiar, it's because it's basically the same type of story as any of my mobilization blunder stories I've done in the past, with the only big difference being here is that these guys survived, surrendered, and are here to tell the story from the other side of the fence. The one where they get to sleep in warm beds at night and get their tummies filled. And that's the decidedly humane acting side, the side that treats them better than their own country. Then in a really quick funny to round it all off for today, guys, so in this video, a Ukrainian soldier found some Russian soldier equipment in the field, which literally had the name on it, Mordor TAC, which is very fitting for Russian soldier use. And so I did some research on this brand, and it turns out it's a Russian mid to low end quality brand for military equipment. It's not designed for real combat, and the company sources their goods direct from Chinese factories. And from what I've also discovered today and in the past is that many soldiers are forced to purchase their own cheap tactical equipment or gear like this stuff right here. So a dodgy piece of gear for a dodgy army. So thanks for watching, guys. That's about it for today. I'm not sure how long this video is, but yeah, thanks for all the likes, comments, and continuing to subscribe. Really appreciate that so much. Really does give a boost and a help to the channel. And I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.